New Minister, we support this bill.
Madam Speaker.
I call Andrew Bain.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to be talking on the Land Transport Management Regional Fuel Tax Amendment Bill, third reading. Well, Madam Speaker, I think this bill is best characterised by the Honourable Phil Twyford opening up the floodgates for every council around the country to put this new tax in place and impose this new tax on everyone in New Zealand. But of course we know it's only initially designated for Auckland, which was, by the way, the original promise, but now has been granted in the bill as it's worked its way through the Select Committee to give every council in New Zealand the right to be able to take this and put it in place in 2021, which, Madam Speaker, I think is the first point to note that this is a broken promise in the sense of its scope. The other aspect I just want to talk about a little bit is I think we just missed the context. The national government, when it was in power, had set out and spent a lot of time with the Auckland Council agreeing what was called the Auckland Transport Alignment Programme, with ATAP, which was about setting out a 30-year vision for a new infrastructure spend in Auckland. It covered all the types of different spending. It covered roads, it covered rail, it covered bus, it covered cycleways, the whole gambit, Madam Speaker. And the only aspect that was missing in that $28 billion was $4 billion of funding, i.e. $24 billion of it was funded and agreed how it was going to be funded and when it was going to be spent and all the priority around it. So what we're talking about is a $4 billion spend over a 30-year period. And what originally happened and what mostly happened was what was increasingly happening was that our government, the national government, was stepping in and helping the Auckland Transport or Auckland Council take over major roads of significance and consent them and put them in place much, much quicker than any council can ever do, because we had made changes to the Resource Management Act, which meant that if a road was of national significance, it could be consented within a maximum of 9 months and then built. And we saw some of those roads come to pass. In fact, the recent Otaki motorway that opened late last year was a prime example of that. So the question is, how should we go about funding that $4 billion? And the best answer that Mr Twyford would come up with was, in agreement with Auckland Transport, was the imposition of a regional fuel tax. And of course we've all heard previously that regional fuel tax has been in place. They were in the 1990s, but largely have been discarded because they're a fairly inefficient way to fund infrastructure spend. So then there was the big focus around congestion charging, and I've spoken about this previously, Madam Speaker, that the Deputy Mayor and a whole group have been over to places like Singapore. And congestion charging, I think, if you had a clean slate, you would always, everyone in this House, and even the Council would agree that congestion charging is the way to go. And in fact, that should be the way to go, and that should be the incentive to go. And in fact, any structure put in place as a temporary measure should actually still have that as its objective. But the worst thing about this bill that's come to the House is it's given 10-year time frame, and at the 10-year time frame, Auckland Council may, after going through a little bit of deliberation, agree to extend it. And so there is no incentive to actually put in place some congestion charging, which is the ideal form. The other way, there were other mechanisms Mr Twyford could have considered. And of course we never heard any of these, but there were ones about just making the system simpler. And at the moment what the system is about, it means the distributor, for instance, if you get fuel at the Tauranga port, the distributor picks it up from the port and distributes it, whether it's to a farmer or whether it's to a fishing company or whether it is to a fuel company. They are the ones who are now going to have to account for where it's distributed and also, in effect, for collecting some of that tax in terms of making sure the administration is right around it. around that. And there are much clearer and easier ways to do it. And if you are going to do a New Zealand system, which is what the intent of the bill is now, why wouldn't you just put a tax on any of petrol or diesel coming into New Zealand at the port, and it would be done and dusted, and it would be very clear and no administration charge for anyone. The other one was, and a couple of speakers, and Mr Twyford talked about it right at the beginning, was to put pressure on Auckland Council. And he said he'd had a bit of a conversation with the Mayor. Well, the issue is that the Mayor said that he was going to achieve 3 to 4% savings on a budget of roughly $3.2 billion of rates that the Council take. They take in another $1 billion of income. And if Mr Twyford had actually sat down and worked out some of the numbers, you would actually, if the Mayor actually achieved his objective, what he said to constituency when he got voted in as Mayor, he would actually more than offset this $150 million that's going to come from this regional fuel tax. And the last way, and probably the best way in my view, was Auckland for the central government to take over key roading projects, and every new motorway basically cost $1 million. And that's why the national government had committed at the last election that they were going to fund the entire Mill Road, Redoubt Road extension, right round from Manukau, around the back of Papakura to Drury, as one road, and we would consent it, which means we could have done it in 9 months, and we would actually have this thing built by the time that probably Auckland Council is even starting to get to the stage where they might be calling for tenders. And I think that's the travesty in it. So what I'm saying to you, Madam Speaker, there are much, much simpler ways to go about this. And I think the one area I do want to think about, and I just heard the very modest Honourable Shane Jones speaking, very modest man, and the champion of New Zealand, champion of the country, as I heard him talk about last week. No, he's moved from the champion of the regions to the champion of the country. That's what he claimed. So what does it mean for the growers? And of course, I represent Hunua, which includes the area of Pukekohe that he was talking about. I've got to say to you that the onion growers, the potato growers, the lettuce and the fresh vegetable growers are all particularly concerned about this bill. It is imposition on them and their operations. They are key to supplying food for not only Auckland but the rest of the country, and this fuel arrangement in terms of how they have to account for it is going to bedevil them in detail. We had one of the key growers from Pukekohe come to the committee. Brendan Ball did a great job with Horticulture New Zealand. They are implacably opposed to this, Madam Speaker, because they know what this is going to mean for their operation. They also know what it's going to mean for the cost of food, because sure as eggs, the food is going to go up because of the cost of the fuel, the 25.3 cents a litre for petrol that every person's going to be paying when they go to the pump from the 1st of July next week. And also, you know, the whole imposition around transport, everything that goes with it, and what that will mean for inflationary pressures for New Zealand. And also, what does it mean for the poorer people of New Zealand, particularly in people in parts of my area like Waiuku. And it's interesting looking at the regulatory impact statement, Madam Speaker. It states, and this is, I'm quoting, Madam Speaker, lower income households tend to live further away, such as Waiuku in my area, or Kawakawa Bay or Riri Point, to live further away from the central city and have to travel further to get to the CBD or to the opposite side of the region. This results in higher fuel consumption by these households than those living closer to the centre, because in many cases not only do they live further, but they have older cars. And this is an incredibly regressive tax, Madam Speaker, and I am particularly concerned about people in my electorate. And you say, well, they're going to get all these benefits. And I say to you, in the ATAP plan that's now been announced, what are we going to get? Well, we're not going to get Mill Road, which is, in my view, misleadingly described. We're going to get Redoubt Road in the first part of that extension from Manukau to Alfredson School, a road to nowhere. Secondly, we thought we were going to get a whole lot of ferry services. Well, it's silent on that, so people in Waiuku won't be able to get there. We're not even going to get, we're going to get some rail stations, apparently. Well, we're committed to that. But I think most of all, it just means that my people have to spend longer on the motorway without good access going up the southern motorway and with very, very little benefit, and I therefore terribly and significantly oppose this bill, Madam Speaker.
I call Jan Logie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a great pleasure. I rise to take a call